Hey there, boys and girls. Another Pickled Dragon unscripted. Flying solo. Alas, Dracoya has moved out of her infested apartment where she found one bug and had to move. So, yes. So I shared a uh little meme here recently on the community page where it kind of talked about what the next big D&D killer is going to be. And it's been predicted over the years, and there's a lot of really good responses to the meme. And I really took a lot of time to think about it. And I just have a few comments about it that I wanted to share. So I got to thinking about this meme, and I had some input I wanted to make about it because there are some distinct changes now between the old events. The collapse of TSR, WotC buying it, and fourth edition, and everybody thought this is going to be the next big D&D killer. They're destroying the brand. And of course the meme is it's the Dr. Manhattan reflection. It's October 1986. Someone in the game store is saying GURPS is a D&D killer. And then Vampire the Masquerade is a D&D killer. And now Daggerheart is the D&D killer. And Daggerheart is we're currently outselling D&D products, like WotC D&D products, which is interesting. But and I think several of you pointed out that D&D as a brand is so iconic that it'll always be around. Like nothing will truly ever destroy D&D, even if it kind of goes into this new zombie phase that it's definitely heading for at this point. Um, I want to say that there is one kind of difference that I see in the current state of affairs and the older times when Gary Gygax is booted from the company. It goes into financial ruin, and eventually WotC buys it, and fourth edition of course was just a train wreck for most people. Some people liked it, but the one thing that really strikes me right now about D&D is when WotC bought TSR, they still had all of those creative people in place. They still had all of those contacts, the publishing and distribution markets, ready to roll, ready for somebody to come in and take over and relaunch the third edition, um, or launch the third edition. But WotC and Hasbro have done a very good job of dismantling all of that this time. So if you think about it, they fired everybody who had anything to do with creating an actual physical book. They got rid of everybody that had anything to do with reaching out and distributing those materials. They got rid of the devs, or they left. I don't know who's left after Perkins, and the others took off. And I know recently there were more people who left the company, and Todd Kenrick was laid off as well, kind of an outreach person, if you will. Um, and of course, all their social media people are gone. I don't know who's left over there creating product. I know that they just recently unleashed some stuff, some subclasses on Unearthed Arcana. I didn't look at them because I have no idea who's even designing over there. So I don't know what vision there is. I'm not a 5e person as much anymore anyway. But as far as being a D&D killer, um, you know, has it become a kind of a self-fulfilled prophecy? Is D&D going to become kind of a catch-all name for fantasy RPGs? Like, oh, we're going to play D&D this weekend, even though they're playing Daggerheart. Or, like it's just a catch-all, like saying, oh, I want to order a Coke when it's Pepsi or whatever. In that way, Dungeons and Dragons will always be kept alive, but uh, the real question is, you know, what will it take to revitalize the game? You know, even if it's subcontracted to another company, you know, no one had the distribution power, uh, the the staff and the support that Dungeons and Dragons had before the dismantling of the IP. Um, so, you know, it begs the question, will, you know, what would it take for Dungeons and Dragons to make a comeback? Um, so for example, you know, Dungeons and Dragons is subbed out to Free League Press, for example. Let's say that happens. Uh, you know, what does that look like? Is it the same? Is it the same powerhouse it was before? I guess is what I'm asking. Uh, certainly it's not dead. You know, I think the zombie phase is a legitimate description of where we're at, but um you know, the way Hasbro also just sits on IPs is that's got to be worrisome. You know, like all of those great IPs like Transformers and so forth that they do very little with. And then they wonder why they're struggling so badly. So I don't know. It was just a thought. Just a thought. In other news, I got one other thing I want to say. First, I need a drink. So, in other news, something that I can toot my own horn about. I don't know how many of you guys know what Obsidian Portal is. It's a hosting site where game groups can go and use the tools there to build a website for their game group. So, you know, doesn't matter what type of game. It's system independent. So you could do a D&D 5e, D&D 1e. You could do Vampire. You could do Shadowrun, whatever. And they've got tools to build a website for your game group where you can, you know, track game logs and NPCs and player characters and stats. You know, how many times has it happened where a character or a player has lost their character sheet? Well, if they keep their character updated on the website, you never have to go through the pain of having to recreate anything. So, you know, it's kind of a cool thing. But what they also do, and they've got thousands and thousands of sites, active sites on their platform, which is pretty neat. They also have a way of connecting players to groups who are looking for groups. So that's another thing to have a look at. But something that they do that is pretty cool is they have a campaign of the month. And if you win campaign of the month, you're automatically enrolled to be campaign of the year. Well, my campaign recently won campaign of the month for July. So starting tomorrow, it'll all appear on their website. Anyway, done with tooting my own horn. Appreciate you guys listening and tuning in. Please like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you guys think about the future of D&D. And it's stumbling into undeath. So I don't know. I find it sad myself, but I am a traditionalist. I like to look back at the legacy of things and wonder at 50 years of gaming. It's kind of crazy. But anyway, guys, come on back, have another round on us.